Hey everybody, it's me Amanda with Once in a Wild, and welcome back to Once in a Wild Wednesday, where we broadcast each and every Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time here on YouTube and Facebook. We've got a special guest for you this evening to meet, and we'll talk about her in just a little bit, but let's go ahead and get started. Once again, welcome back to Once in a Wild Wednesday. It is another happy Wednesday, and I hope you guys had a great week. We missed you guys all week, and we had a special guest last week as well. And if this is your first time actually visiting us for Once in a Wild Wednesday, we do broadcast each and every Wednesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, and we are Once in a Wild. What is Once in a Wild? Well, we are a mobile zoo, and that means we can bring animals to your classroom, to your birthday party, any special event, even virtually as well, as you can see. If you would like to leave a tip or donation today and you like what you see, there are a couple of options for you: Venmo, Cash App, as well as PayPal as well. They're all the same handle, which is Once in a Wild, and you can find all the information you need about donating to our Amazon wish list as well at onceinawild.com. So hello, can you introduce yourself to everybody?
Hi everyone, my name is Luisa Garcia, and I have a blog, and it's called the San Antonio Socialista.
Wonderful. So is that, what else do you do for a living, and what is a little bit of your background?
Sure. So the San Antonio Socialista started off as a blog in 2012. So it's almost going to be 10 years old next year. I'm super excited. So hopefully I
Congratulations.
can celebrate with you guys as well.
Yeah.
And it started off as a blog, but I did it to start supporting local small businesses and nonprofits in San Antonio. And it kind of evolved from there. As you know, Instagram blew up into kind of like more of, influencers. So I started collaborating with different businesses and different brands. And that also led to my business is I do social media management and marketing consulting. So, and then on the side, of course, or not on the side, but it's also my passion too, is just helping nonprofits on the board of Partners for Youth. And I'm also a Girl Scout leader, as you know.
Yay! Love that.
And a PTA mom, a mom of 3, and I've been married to my husband, Jesse, for 15 years. Actually, We're going to be celebrating on Thursday, 15 years. So.
Congratulations as well.
Yeah, for that. Junior high sweetheart.
Oh, so cute. And you guys are both from San Antonio, correct?
We're both born and raised from San Antonio. Yep.
Awesome. And that's where we're located, by the way. If you're watching from another city or state, we are in San Antonio, Texas. That's why we're on Central Time, of course. 6:30 p.m. Central Time is when our show normally broadcasts each and every Wednesday, unless we let you know that we're skipping that week for some reason. We do that every now and then, and we run a rerun. But we are also offering in-person animal encounters to anybody in the South Texas area, to be honest with you. As long as you're around San Antonio, we can make it over to you within reason, and we can bring animals to any type of event that you think would be better with animals. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that, because we actually already know each other.
Yes.
Can you talk to everybody about how we met and what happened? How did you find us?
So of course, the lovely world of Instagram got us together, and I became a huge fan instantly when I started following Once in a Wild. I just love everything that they were about, and mostly because of the inspiration. And at that time, it was during the pandemic, and my kids became huge fans as well with me. We would watch together, and shortly after that, I think I reached out to you, and then we did a virtual event. Indeed. And I said, oh my gosh, I just was trying to look for ideas, not only for my own kids, but for my Girl Scouts. And everybody was just trying to we just wanted to keep going. And like we said earlier, just keep trying our best. And I said, there's no reason for us not to lose momentum, because we're not having in-person events, and we can still, inspire our kiddos and inspire my Girl Scouts. So I think that was one of the first virtual events that I had, because I said, oh my gosh, what can I come up with? And then I saw this and I reached out, this is perfect. And so I think at the time it was like 13 or 14 girls, and they all came on, everybody's at home. And I was thinking to myself, oh, okay, how is this going to go? And it was just a huge hit, not only for myself. I think I almost started crying at one point too, because I was videotaping them as they were watching it, and they were just like this, just glued, to the computer. And then they were asking tons of questions. I mean, they were just so involved, and I really didn't think just because it was on screen that they were going to get excited about the animals, but they were so excited because they had your full attention to be able to ask those questions that they had, and, I think you can research, on books and things like that. But this was just a more of an intimate experience that they had. And right then, we were just hooked from that moment on. And I think shortly after that, we had another meeting. And so the follow-up was, what are some of the things you want to do? Well, can we do that again? Oh, okay. So, and, thank God, times got a little bit better. And then we were able to, meet outside, which was really nice. I kind of really loved that. We met outside of the school, in front of the school, and it was a really nice time too, because it was just at sunset, and everybody wore masks. And then I invited the parents of the Girl Scouts, and they bought their lawn chairs. We all sat outside, and it was truly a fun experience. The parents got involved too, which I just looked around at that time, and I remember I was just, I'm the documenter, and so I was just taking pictures, and
I remember,
and I just, was like, wow, this is, it was a good form of therapy too, because, I knew the stories behind those girls, and I knew the stories behind those parents, because we were at a time that it was just, anxiety was high for everyone. As parents, we just are living with this kind of fear, and sometimes we're scared to talk about it. Sometimes we're not. Sometimes we just don't know how to feel in general. But when you're around animals and you're around, it's just a form of therapy, and it kind of gets our minds off of things. And everybody felt, together at that time. And we just were all happy about one thing together, which of course just got our mind off of things. And we were able to, not think about other things at that time. So it was a really great experience. Not to mention just educational. They just learned so much. I was, the questions kept coming. And so I just remember these little hands kept going up.
I feel like it could go on all day.
Yeah, really
talk to me. Because it's a genuine interest, and it's a genuine escape, like you said. Just something to kind of get your mind off of your troubles. And not that we have to escape our troubles all the time, but it's important to have a break.
I think so. It is. It really is. And even the parents were, having a great time too. Yeah, they were asking questions just the same. So that was the start of my, that was my start of my journey with Once in a Wild. I just became an instant fan, and I knew I wanted to support in every way. And this was a great way. Not only it was a way for me to give back to the community as well, because that's a passion of mine, just to not only talk about it, but to be the hands and feet in our community, to actually have a position to where we have, not an influence with my pictures necessarily on Instagram, but actually, being an influence of being there, being there for the kids that need us. And, Girl Scouts is just one of the ways that, anybody can get involved. And I encourage everybody just to look into kind of leadership or even co-leading or even donating. And, I think it really goes a long way.
Awesome. And you're a leader in the Girl, I don't know anything about Girl Scout leadership. So maybe explain what you do for the Girl Scouts. Is it just one troop? Is it multiple?
Yeah. So it actually started out because at our school, we did not have Girl Scouts. And so one of the moms had reached out to me and said, hey, there's no Girl Scouts. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I always knew I wanted the girls to be involved in it, but I guess I had never been approached or had seen flyers for any of the schools that we were in.
You have 2 daughters, correct?
I have 2 daughters. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, I know nothing about it, but I can help you. It started out like that. So it started out.
Oh, find out.
Yeah. And so she's like, well, I don't know anything either. So I said, okay. So she looked into it, and then I became her co-leader. And shortly after that, she had to leave. And so I said, well, the girls loved it so much. And oh my gosh, it was just like, we had a little team together already. And I said, okay. So I went with it. And I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it well. So I just started investing and looking into ways to really utilize our funding, because our cookie money really is our funding. Everybody, please buy your cookies. That is truly the way we use our funding throughout the whole year.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's how we pay for our events. That's how we are able to take the girls places. And then during that time of virtual, I was able to do kits. and I would drop them off because we
Okay.
couldn't meet together. But hey, we can do crafts together
I
online.
see. Okay.
So I would drop off
Aw.
kits and crafts and
Ugh.
coloring books and just a whole basket of inspiration and fun. And then that way, okay, this is for this meeting, and they would have their basket. And sometimes it was
Gotcha.
tough for other leaders. I know it was a tough time to even do anything, but
Absolutely. Even for like teachers, anybody where we're thinking outside the box, us too. Because we
Right.
opened up before COVID. I don't know if you know
Yeah.
this,
Oh, I
but we
didn't.
opened up before COVID, and we were just a events company. We were doing
okay.
public events only. We weren't doing obviously any virtual, no live
Right.
streams, nothing. And we opened up like just a few months before all this happened.
Wow. Oh my
And
gosh,
then
I
when
didn't
all
know
this
that.
happened, I had to cancel.
Yeah.
And I was just like heartbroken. I was like crying my
Yeah.
eyes out because it was my dream to open up this
Exactly.
company, after working
Right.
with animals almost my whole life, and then like kind of putting the kind of a gamble to open up my own business
Exactly.
and taking the chance and believing in myself or whatever. And then
Right.
this just happened, and it's like, what do? You quit? You can't quit.
Right.
I have all these
Mhm.
animals to feed, and I have these
Right.
people that are counting on me. So
Exactly.
it was actually my dad's idea to start doing the live streams.
Oh,
And he was
gosh,
like,
wow.
you should get online and just talk about animals and see who watches. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I started doing that just to kind of
Oh,
self-promote
wow.
a little bit.
Mhm.
And it really helped.
Yeah, I mean, it
And-
helps in every way, right? Marketing, all sorts
and the
of
social
right.
media, like we were just talking about a little bit
Exactly.
ago, is like the social media can be a full-time job, but it's also very powerful. It can
Mhm.
get the word out there if you do it right, and the
Oh,
right people
I
see
believe
you,
in
then
it.
it's like it's really, really cool.
Right.
So
Yeah,
that's
I
what we
believe in the
did.
positive of social media. I know
That's
there's
it.
so many areas,
absolutely.
and the positive of it, the opportunities that my family has had have been amazing. I just can't even believe like the things that I talk about and some of my pivotal moments in social media or in my career or the existence of this San Antonio Socialista happened in COVID, which I couldn't believe. And I thought, oh well, how's this going to go for everybody? Because I know it's been hard, but social media is very powerful.
Oh yeah,
I believe it. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and we really wanted to be something different, something positive. Even before the pandemic happened and we went virtual, we were on social media already. So being very colorful, happy, trying to, kind of bring a positive light to some of these animals that a lot of people maybe aren't comfortable with, like spiders and snakes and little things like that, and kind of misinterpreted animals or misunderstood animals. We wanted to kind of bring a true light to them and say, hey, they're not scary, they're just they're just animals, and this is the purpose that they serve in nature, and we should respect them, and it's okay if you don't like them, but respect them, kind of thing. So that was kind of our idea in the first place, is to be an outreach first and try to teach people about these animals that are misunderstood, but also be something different and something happy. So that's what we still try to do today.
I love that. And we all remember it. We remember the purple.
Great. Yes. We wanted to be colorful. Not that there's anything wrong with khaki and green and brown that a lot of zoos do incorporate, but we wanted to be a little bit different and stand out. And it helps us as a new company to be different as well. Oh, super cool. So what are some of the, I was going to ask you, what were some of the moments that you remember besides like the questions, and like which animals do you remember at the show you like the best, or that your kids like the best?
Of course, the hedgehog.
Yes. She loves the hedgehog.
I mean, when that hedgehog came out, everybody was just like, oh,
they're so cute.
It was just so in sync, the response of all the girls and of course the adults too. But it just, when it rolls up and you just can't help, like your body just blurts out. It's super cute. And I actually didn't know anything about it at all, and I didn't even realize, the whole experience. And of course the snake, of course, it's just like, and the other one was the little, it has like a funny, is it mute or little like, which one do you have? It's kind of slimy and it has a funny little name, and it has like the little,
axolotl, so underwater.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember on the virtual we did that one.
It actually kind of became my favorite one because I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, and it's kind of cute. It's kind of cute in its own way.
And it's important to have like some of the animals be the cute, cuddly, if you will, or popular animals to kind of not lure people in, but get their interest and have something, because it is kind of a it's a good icebreaker. It's a good kind of something that everybody has in common. Like, oh, everybody loves those animals. And then that's like, haha, learn about this animal too.
Yeah, and you did it very well, because I think then we went into the snake and the spiders. But then once you brought it out, and then that's when the questions kept coming. We're like, oh, you know, and then you can see the appreciation just building from there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of times when people understand, like, why do they have 8 legs and why do they have 8 eyes? And it's just an animal with different features than us. It doesn't make them bad. There's a reason that they have like their venom, and there's a reason they have hair, and and it all makes sense. And you go, oh, okay, it's not really like a monster. It's just an animal.
Yeah,
so, no big deal, right? And they're pretty. They have pretty colors.
Yeah, they do.
And, yeah, we kind of go from there. And then what are some of the partnerships or projects that are some of your favorites, like on your social media or your blog?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, partnerships, well, the opportunities that I had, the coolest thing that we've done was, you know, I get these opportunities, and, you know, you never know how it's going to go, but this went from 0 to 100, and we were involved. We were in a film. We were in a docuseries, Apple TV Plus. You can actually watch it. It's called Becoming You.
Wow.
My son, Jesse, was featured as one of 100 babies around the world, and it was a Warner Brothers film, and you can watch it. He's on the series on the segment called Making Friends, and it highlights San Antonio as, you know, where Jesse's from, and there's another child from San Antonio that was featured as well, and it just kind of, you know, it was such a great opportunity, because the film was filmed so beautifully. You know, it's a Warner Brothers, and these are documentaries that you see. There was other people from Africa and all over the world, and it was beautiful to see ourselves in that way, you know, and to be able to share our story with pretty much the whole world, and to feature San Antonio, which is my heart. You know, I started the San Antonio Socialista to be able to highlight my city and to celebrate it and to share the story of my culture. You know, not only, and with my community as well, so people can know ways to give, but also with people that want to come and visit as well. So they can just learn about, you know, San Antonio and some fun places that we like to come, but also just to learn about our family and how we grew up. And they featured, you know, Market Squares, one of the places that we shot at.
Super cool.
Yeah. And then we also did a you know, backyard barbecue that they featured. Super cool. I mean, it was really fun.
So exciting.
And to go back and to look at that, he was a baby, and to look at that.
And what, he's like 2, right?
Yeah, he's 2. And so he was about 7 months, and then they came back at 9 months. So we did, you know, multiple filmings, and I mean, it's really something, and I feel really proud and just honored to be able to have that opportunity, because I look back and I'm like, this is a true memory. He was watching it the other day, and he goes, "That me?" I mean, he was looking at. I hadn't really shown it to him because he wasn't, you know, old enough, and so now he watches movies, and so I said, let me put it on for him, and we all started watching. He's like, just watching it, and he's like, that's me. And so it was so much fun. That was a ton of fun. And then shortly after that, I did another feature for Amazon Prime. You can watch it on Amazon Prime too. It's called Beyond the Block. And so it's a show about a couple that was trying to look for a home in San Antonio, kind of like a house hunters.
Okay, sure.
And so they wanted to have a local. And they asked me to be, you know, to the local person in San Antonio. And so I was able to just come on board and kind of talk about the city and, you know, how, you know, what I thought about in the different neighborhoods and kind of what I thought, how living is here in San Antonio. And then also just
it's the best. Well. Just so you know, it's the best city in Texas.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. And of course, the place that we met had food trucks. So I'm a big foodie, and I was able to showcase some of the food trucks and some taco trucks. I've seen that on
your Instagram a little bit.
Yeah, because San Antonio has the best food. Oh, yeah. And that was a lot of fun. So we had those recently, and, you know, I've had some other great partnerships. You know, I partnered with McDonald's not too long ago.
Okay.
And it was actually the McDonald's right down the street that I was able to interview the owners. And I grew up with that McDonald's, and I always saw that, you know, they had the family name outside, most of McDonald's, and I just remember as a little kid always seeing it. And then I did the interview. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is kind of cool. I get to actually meet you and you're, you know.
Nostalgia.
And so it was kind of coming back, and she kind of had researched me, and it was a moment that I'm like, wow, this is the collaboration I wanted. And she was just a great person to just, hey, whatever you need in your community, whatever you need for your partnerships, your nonprofits. And so I think from then on, you know, a lot of brands, we partner with each other because it's a great fit, but also just to be able to help each other and just to celebrate each other's wins and your products and businesses. And so it's been fun.
That's good.
Yeah. So there's some of the big ones. Of course, there's been a lot of fun things that have evolved over time, but
you guys need to check it out, SA Socialista on Instagram. Let's see some of the questions coming in since we were talking. My mom is tagging all of her friends that would love the show, which really helps us out. So she typically will do that.
Hi,
she will
Mom.
tag. She says, hi, Mom. And let's see, she's just tagging 100 people. I'm just going through. She's clapping for us. That's so nice.
Thank you.
And she says, thank you back. And Ricardo's just asking what made you start the blog. I think you already answered that, but you can answer again if you want to.
Well, you know, I lived in Arizona. We had moved when my husband got recruited from UTSA, and we moved out to Arizona for a little bit. So we got to travel not only to Arizona, but to a couple of other places when we were newlyweds and kind of just, you know, traveling and things like that. And you know, I was in corporate, so my background is business management and marketing. So I worked in the corporate world in marketing, and so I did that for a while, and then we had my first daughter, and so after that, things kind of got challenging with, you know, childcare and picking them up and kind of all that kind of sort of stuff. And so our commute at that time, our commute was just it was very challenging. So my husband at one point said, can you just, you know, stay home with the baby? It would be so much easier. And so I said, sure. And so, you know, I stayed home, but I knew I wanted to continue to do something. And I think at that time, I got a camera. I got a good camera because that was always my passion, was photography.
Oh, very cool.
And I started to take pictures of my daughter, and shortly after that, I was just kind of like, you know, kind of just like, what do I want to do? And my husband told me this, and I'll just like never forget it. And it's something so simple. He's just like, well, what do you love? And do it well. That was it. And I'm like, well, I love writing and I love photography. And so I started a blog, and this was before anybody knew what blog was. It was kind of like this weird word, right? It was like blog. You know, my mom didn't know for the longest time what any of that was. And so I started out with...
Hey, Mom, I'm going to blog. What? Is that good or bad? I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
so
good,
I
Mom.
started out writing, you know, in this blog. And...
which was what, just on like a website somewhere?
Yeah, it was actually, because there wasn't any of these, I don't think WordPress, I don't even know. It wasn't anything popular like that stuff. It was like, I think it was called like Executor or something to that effect. And I would actually get paid monetary for any of my writings, and they would pay me for my posts. That's good. So I started doing that, and then it led into my photography led into one of my neighbors hiring me to do photos. And so she had an art studio, and she would host, you know, these dance recitals and things like that. And so I started out doing that, and then it kind of just, and I just said, you know, when I go back to San Antonio, I already knew I had this vision. I wanted to be called, my blog to be called the San Antonio Socialista. And, you know, everybody's like, Socialista, it's kind of like a weird word, and it gets confused, but it's like social, but then Ista is like this, you know, kind of like, you know, Tex-Mexy, like Socialista. Yeah. And so, so I kind
Which
of.
I understand because I'm from here, but.
You know, so you kind of have to like, definitely. You know, if somebody's not from here, but once you say it, and then, I think one person told me, oh, once you meet her, oh yeah, Socialista. And then it kind of makes sense. So, super cute. So yeah, I always knew that. And then shortly after that, we wanted to come back home. San Antonio, we had, we wanted Mia to be close to her cousins. We wanted to be back with our parents and back with family and friends. And so I came back, and I literally started as soon as I got back, and it went from there. And I just got involved with nonprofits at that time because I was still a stay-at-home mom, and and I said, okay, well, I have some volunteer time. And that's what truly took off. I started out with Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and I did their 5K. I had never done a 5K, but I did the marketing for their 5K. And so once I did that, I was going on TV, like on Ken's 5 and things like that. And I met a bunch of people, basically networking. And I was also hosting networking events with a radio show, Inspiration for Life, and we would do networking, and I would host these events with, you know, cocktails and food and things like that, and with the point of still highlighting small businesses, because it was at a time that people weren't getting the word out about, you know, businesses that were popping up. And yeah, I started, you know, and taking pictures.
They need it.
And they really didn't know how to start Facebook pages at the time, and you know, some of them were older generation, and I would just start it for them, and it was also very expensive for them at the time. And so, you know, I just started helping people out, and then it just kind of turned into, well, I like what you're doing. Can you do that for me? So it kind of evolved from there, and that's where I'm at, combined with my blog that I just kind of continued on with mini blogs on my Instagram, and that's where it has evolved from now.
Awesome.
And it always changes. It's just an ever-evolving thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's always kind of like new things pop up, new opportunities. Yeah, so I mean, I never thought I would be kind of like, you know, co-hosting with, you know, on a show on Amazon Prime, or I never thought these things, but it's just opportunities that I just, my many blessings that I just appreciate.
It's always interesting to think back to maybe like 10, 20 years ago. Like, did I ever see myself doing any of this? Like, no. But it's amazing what life can change, and, you know, what it can lead you towards different opportunities and what people you meet and relationship you build and people you help. And it's pretty amazing.
I would say
no matter what kind of job you do.
Yeah, no matter what job, and then never take anyone for granted.
No.
I mean, I'm telling you, those big opportunities were from things that you would never think of, or people would never respond to, or people would never, you know, just that one handshake, that one mini conversation, that one time that you just spend can open up doors. But I love people, and I love meeting new people and learning their stories. I just, my heart is with being a storyteller. So my dad was a storyteller in the sense of, he always had this video camera. He videotaped my like pre-K. I have videotapes from every single thing, and I always remembered that. And I thought, oh, he wanted to always, you know, document that. He always wanted to just remember that, and I remember that, and I feel like I kind of carry the same thing too. And my parents were both entrepreneurs. They both had their own businesses, and that kind of fed into like my reason why I want to support small businesses so much, because I knew their hard work, and I knew what it takes, and the risk, and all these things. So that's kind of where, that is where it kind of all rooted from.
That's awesome. That was a great question, Ricky. Let's see who else wants to say hello. Mom's just tagging 1,000 people. Ricky loves the hedgehog too, apparently, with the little heart. Oh, hello, Ash. So Ash is actually triplets from Miami, who are some of our biggest fans as well. And they usually watch the show all the way from Florida. Hi, guys. So good to have you on the show. So is this where Beyond the Block on Amazon?
Beyond the Block on Amazon.
Cool. Very good.
Yes,
Thank
Beyond
you, Ricky.
the Block, and then Becoming You. Yes, on Apple TV.
Very. Becoming You. Okay, cool. Hello, Lamar. Nice to see you.
Hi.
Megan. Oh, that's the same one again. Sorry. Your daughter, how cool. I'm not sure what you were talking about there, but something you said about one of your kiddos.
Yeah.
Yes, and Ricky has a tear in the eye, I guess. And they say, check it out.
I don't know why I felt like crying. I get emotional.
That's okay. I'm like that too. I'm very, very sentimental, and it sounds like your parents were sentimental.
Yes,
and mine are too. So I get that as well. And I definitely come from a background of artists, like we were just talking about a little bit ago before the show started. And same thing. I'm actually a photographer as well.
Awesome.
So we have a lot in common, and very close to my parents. And so I always had like a camera or a video camera in my face too growing up. And this was before, camera phones or anything. Obviously now
like
you can do
big,
anything.
Huge video.
Oh yeah, it was like this, like on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Like at the zoo or wherever we went.
Yes. That was
always
me.
capturing the moment, SeaWorld, wherever we went. Well,
Mhm.
super cool.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to take too much time without seeing some animals, you guys.
Yeah,
It's already
I'm
7
excited.
p.m. So we can always, of course, segue into something else
Okay.
afterwards. But let's go ahead and meet some animals just like we always do. If this is the first time you are tuning in tonight, hello, my name is Amanda. This is Louisa. She's my special guest
Hello.
today. Let everybody know where they can find you.
At SA_Socialista, or you can just Google the San Antonio Socialista.
Perfect. And that's going to be mostly on Instagram, correct?
Yes, mostly on Instagram, but I do have the blog too.
Oh,
so
very good. Of
it's
course.
Just, yes.
Okay, awesome. Maybe Ricky can highlight that down below in a comment, so it would help out. It's also in the description box down below, you guys. AFV cameras, yeah.
Yes.
The big ones.
Yes.
And we are going to have an animal encounter now, so that is what we typically do on the show. I've only had a few special guests, so you're one of, I think, 4 in-person guests. We've had a few virtual guests as well.
Okay.
And typically I just, talk to the guests first and then we meet the animals. But typically I'm on the show alone. It's usually a one-woman show, as you guys know that have watched me before. You're familiar. And then we bring out some animals for you guys to meet and learn about. So we are bringing out some animals now, and it's all your favorites, right?
Yay! I know.
So excited.
Let's see.
So it's going to be okay. We're not going to be bringing the hedgehog because she was actually out here last week. I'm just going to start with our furry critter, though, that is coming out. So right now we're going to meet Tiptoes, and I am going to do all the handling. And Louisa is just going to learn and
think
sit.
She's cute.
Okay, here she comes. So this is Tiptoes, you guys that have watched our show many times. You probably know Tiptoes, remember her. She's a pink toe tarantula. And these guys are from the Antilles Islands, which is kind of like in the Caribbean. So beautiful area of the world. They live right next door to like Playa del Carmen and Cancun and all those places in the Antilles Islands. And there's other types of pink toe tarantulas too that live all over Central and South America. So they're essentially that type of tarantula in the tropics. As you can see, she climbs my hand. These guys are tree-dwelling tarantulas, which means they're called arboreal. Arboreal means up in the trees most of the time, and terrestrial will be on the ground. So terrestrial on the ground.
Oh, okay.
Of course, aquatic animals are in the water, right? And arboreal animals are in the trees. So not every tarantula can climb like this, but she's really good at climbing with her little claws that she has.
Oh, wow.
The claws are really tiny. They're kind of like cat's claws in the fact that they are retractable.
Oh,
so you know that cats have retractable claws when they don't need to use them. They just put them back into their toes and then they flex to actually spring their claws forward in a cat's instance. And they use their claws to like hunt or scratch or something like that. Her claws don't hurt me at all. So they're just for climbing. And it just creates enough friction to kind of have as like almost like a little mini mountain climber. She can use her little tools to climb onto my hand, but I can barely feel anything. So it's not hurting me at all. But they do have 8 legs, right? But they also have 2 arms. They have 8 longer legs and 2 little short appendages that we call pedipalps, but they're kind of like arms. And they're just shorter than the rest of the legs. A difference between a spider and like an insect is going to be how many central body parts they have. One really easy way to remember how many body parts arachnid or spider has is how many legs they have, which is 8. And it looks like a figure of 8. So it's 2 central body parts. So it looks like 2 kind of round sections. The one in the back, which is pointing upward right there, that's going to be the abdomen. And the one in the center where all the legs are connected to is called the cephalothorax. So cephalo in, like Latin means head, and thorax means like your central body. So it's a cephalothorax. It's a head and body combo. And that's where all the legs are connected. And then her arms are right there in the front. And they do also have 8 eyes. Not every spider has 8 eyes, but most tarantulas have 8 eyes. Now you would think with all those eyes that they could see really well. But they can't.
Oh my goodness.
They don't see very well at all. Her main sense is going to be her sense of touch. And that's another thing they have in common with cats. The retractable claws, right? They climb with. And by the way, even if they're a ground tarantula, they do have retractable claws just to gain like traction on the ground. They can kind of grip onto the ground a little bit easier, or their web or something like that. But they also have hair like a cat, but their hair is more like whiskers all over them. And that helps them to feel. So that's going to be their main sense. They really don't see very well, but they do have a great sense of touch, and they sense vibration, wind blowing, a breeze, a moth flying by. They can sense that as well, and actually maybe choose to eat the moth because they do eat bugs, right? Insects. And they're so good at catching those insects that they can catch a moth in flight.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that amazing? So they will sense them just by touch, and then they'll reach out and grab it.
Gosh.
And they know the difference between like me and something that they can eat. So they choose to not attack me, right? Which is kind of cool that they know the difference.
That's a really pretty red, like the
Yeah.
whiskers that you said, or the...
Well, it's like whiskers in the fact that they use them for feeling vibration, but it's hair. I mean, it's just hair. You call it hair. But yeah, the burgundy coloration came with age. When she was a very tiny spider, which, do you know the term for a baby spider?
No.
It's a spiderling.
Oh, a spiderling.
Super cute, right? Or sling for short. A lot of people call it a sling. Spiderling.
From Charlotte's Web.
Right. That is so true. Charlotte's Web, one of my favorite books.
Yes.
So Charlotte had all her babies little spiderling, but when she was a spiderling, this one, Tiptoes, she was bright baby blue. With pink toes, which is why they call them a pink toe tarantula. It looks like they have their toes painted like like pink toenails, but it's just the tips of the toes.
How cute.
You can kind of see if she is at the right angle. It's hard to see on camera, but you might be able to see the tips of her toes are now kind of like a tan instead of a pink nowadays. So as they grow up, spiders and all invertebrates, which have no bones, right? They have to shed their exoskeleton. So they molt. So as they grow and get bigger and bigger, they have to take off their entire exoskeleton. It comes off like a shell. And as this spider grows up, that color changes each time.
Oh, wow.
So they go from baby blue to more green and burgundy as they age. And the girls, like Tiptoes is a girl. And we know that by her coloration, but also her age, because girls live a lot longer than boys. If she were a boy, she would have already passed away by now. Boys only make it till about 3 for the species. Wow. Yep, not very long. But the girls can live to be about 12 to 15. And she's about 5 or 6 now.
That's a big difference.
Yes, it is a big difference. It's kind of not great to be a male tarantula. But a lot of times the tarantulas that we see, you had mentioning before we started the show, you actually have seen tarantulas in the wild, right? So what is your experience with seeing them out there in nature?
Yeah, I mean, the ones I've seen are kind of really black.
Yes.
The ones that around
and here in Texas, right?
In Texas, they're just really, really black. Yep. I feel like there might be, that's, of course, not that big, but a little bit smaller.
Okay, sure.
And I feel like they come out when it rains. But yeah, we see them. They come in the garage and things like that.
Yeah, sometimes they get a little bit lost or disoriented. Remember, they can't see very well if they're burrow underground, because typically the ones here are going to be on the ground or underground. That's where they like to live. If they become flooded, they have to come out. But a lot of times you'll see the males coming out. So during certain times of year, the males are looking for love. They're looking for females because they don't have very long to live. So if they get the urge to start finding females, they'll leave their burrow and run around, but they're not meaning to bother you at all. They just actually want to find a girl. They're running out of time. That's right. So they're skittering around looking for that. But also, of course, when they lose their home for whatever reason, construction or something like that, or flooding, which is a natural occurrence too. So there's a lot of reasons you might see them getting a little bit lost. So the best thing to do is just leave them alone. They're actually really great for us, and that's because they eat a lot of bugs. So insects have their place too, just like spiders have their place in nature, but too many insects can make us sick with diseases and things like that, or they can be parasites and stuff like that. So we need animals eating those other animals essentially to keep their numbers in check. Otherwise we get too many, and too many of anything is bad. Right. So that's the best way to kind of, as you know, and we've taught you, you and the girls at the Girl Scouts and your kiddos, is just leave them alone. Every animal has their place in nature, and they're there for a reason, right? And a lot of people misunderstand them because they're just different than us. They might have more legs, they might have more eyes, but they don't mean anybody any harm. And did you know that tarantulas, especially, there's no deadly tarantula to humans. There is no tarantula that has ever killed a human. Some of them have a little bit more strong venom than others. Hers is very mild, so it wouldn't even hurt me if I were to get bitten potentially by her, but she's not going to bite me. But even if she did, it wouldn't be that bad at all. Be far less than like a bee sting. And they cannot harm you in a significant way to like hospitalize you or anything like that. There's other spiders that can, as we all know, black widows and things like that. But again, we can just leave them alone to do their job. Oh goodness. So that is sometimes something that they do as well. They're kind of like birds. I don't know if you guys could see on camera, but she certainly did. They do use the restroom sometimes, but that is perfectly natural as well. Wow. So I do have a couple of questions. I know, right there on camera. Every time she does that and I watch the playback, you can't see it. So I'm like, why did I even mention anything? But you certainly certainly saw it. That was kind of cool. Tiptoes, yes, she's one of our favorites. Is it sticky? Yes, it is. Basically, like I was saying, they're tiny little claws, almost microscopic, and that just gives her enough friction to be able to kind of, you know, grip onto my skin. I can feel it, but it doesn't hurt. But it is a little sticky. That's what it feels like. How many babies they typically give birth to?
My friend Adiana. Hi.
Oh, hello! Thank you for being on the show. So I'll leave your question on there so we can answer it. Tarantulas in general do have a lot of babies and they have eggs. Not every arachnid lays eggs. In fact, scorpions give live birth. They have live babies, which is very different. But as you know from Charlotte's, I almost said Spider's Web. Charlotte's Web, she had a lot of babies, right? And that was kind of the end of the story there. Typically, they don't live very long after giving birth afterwards, but they do have like a little silk purse that they put their eggs in and that they make out of their own webs, and that will protect their babies for as long as they need to be protected and before they hatch. But these guys can have a lot of eggs, so it just depends on the species and it depends on the individual too, but they can have anywhere from like 100 to like 1,000.
Oh wow.
And they're very tiny, but that helps them to have insurance. That way if something happens to their young, their species can still go on. So the more babies, the more likely they're going to survive. Yeah, so they do have a lot of them. I can't remember how many this particular species has, but I know it's quite a few. It's not just like, sorry, she responds to my breath sometimes because of the sense of touch. I didn't mean to spook you there. I'm all out of love. Is that the tarantula? Oh, from the male tarantula? Aww. You'll especially leave them alone, I assume you're trying to say. Yes, that's very nice of you. Yeah, a lot of people are afraid of certain animals like spiders because there's things like arachnophobia and movies that they've seen, and people have misconceptions that they're all gonna come after you and kill you or something, and it's just not true. In fact, spiders are much more healthy for us than a lot of other invertebrates like roaches and flies, mosquitoes, ticks, things like that can in fact make us sick and harm us, and we need to make sure and have a healthy planet again. So having these predators in their natural ecosystem, they're a top predator in their little circle of ecosystem that they live in. They're also prey for some animals too, because they're small too. A lot of animals do eat spiders out there in nature. Some of their main predators might be birds, lizards, other animals like that, maybe even bigger spiders. You always thought that they would bite you with poison. Well, every tarantula does have venom or poison. Venom is a type of poison. You know the difference between venom and poison in general?
No.
So every venom is a poison, but not every poison is a venom. So venom has to be injected by either a stinger, a fang, something like that. But poison you can actually eat or get on your skin, like poison ivy, right? So that is a poison as well. Technically, venom is a poison, but it's a specialized poison. Venom is very specifically having to go into your bloodstream or into your skin through a puncture, as opposed to just like touching it.
As opposed to touching it.
Or eating it.
Right.
So she's not really poisonous. Animals can eat her, but she is venomous. And her venom is actually to prepare her food. So remember, they eat bugs, but they don't have any chewing teeth. They only have their fangs. They don't have teeth at all. They have like a little straw mouth. It's called a proboscis. It's kind of like, have you ever seen a butterfly drinking nectar?
Yeah.
They have like the long proboscis that comes out. It looks like a little straw. That's kind of what they have too. It's just shorter and kind of squattier. And what they have to do is they will, first of all, they'll kind of like attack and pull their prey in and hold it like this. It all happens very quickly. And then their two fangs, which are actually kind of under her chin right now, but when they want to use them, they pop forward and they'll stab like a stinger. And that will give the food venom. And then the venom will take effect very fast. It will usually paralyze the food and hold it still. But it also liquefies them.
Really?
Yes. So it makes it into a drink so they can drink with their straw.
Oh my gosh.
And then they can actually have a meal. Otherwise they can't eat. So that's what the venom is really for. It's not really for defense, although some spiders do bite for defense, just kind of if they're at a last resort. But most spiders and animals in general would rather get away from you and run off. And that's usually what we see is the tarantulas are like, bye.
Yeah.
They're trying to get away quickly. And or they'll just be hiding, or some tarantulas do have the ability to use their hair for defense, which is kind of rubbing their leg up against their body, and then those hairs will go into the air. It's pretty hard to see, but then it will kind of irritate your face. That's another kind of way they can do that. This species almost never does that. They typically try to run off, as you've been seeing her kind of run. All right. Are there any without hair? I know there are some spiders that are less hairy than tarantulas. Tarantulas are some of the most hairy, but tarantulas always have this kind of thick coat of hair, and that protects their body like armor and also gives them the ability to feel vibrations. But I believe every spider has some sort of hair, whether it's more sparse or more thick than the next. I mean, it just kind of depends. I'm not terribly scared of them, but I avoid them. That's actually not a big deal. We don't expect all of you guys to be like us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be needing to exist in the first place, right?
Right, yeah.
Once in a Wild wouldn't have to be a thing because all of you guys would be the same as us. So we understand that you're not. It is okay that you're maybe a little bit nervous around certain animals, like animals that you're not used to or you have misconceptions about. It's okay. But we just want to ask that you guys respect them, right? So that's the best thing we can do, as we keep saying over and over again. Yeah. But that's one reason why we opened up, is because we saw a lot of not just spiders, but like snakes and really any animal, opossums too, becoming destroyed because people are afraid of them. They think that they're going to harm their kids. They think that they're protecting their families. And it's really the opposite. We should really just be educating people and let people know, like, hey, just leave them alone. They'll typically just leave. Here's some ways that you can probably avoid having those animals in your backyard, or if you want to have them in your backyard, we can teach you about that too. But animals like opossums are a really good example because a lot of people think that they're going to give you rabies or bite your kids, and nothing can be further from the truth. They do not want to attack you. They don't even carry rabies, and they're very beneficial. So that's another animal we teach about as well. Leave spiders alone. Leave Brittany alone. Yes, Ricky. All right. Did you have any other questions about Tiptoe?
I don't. I think the more I look at her, it's just the more fascinated I become. I feel like they look like little hooves a little bit.
Yeah, almost like a little goat.
A little, yeah, they're super cute.
I love that. I used to work with ibex and other hoofstock over at San Antonio Zoo, and they do kind of remind me of that because they kind of go up on the wall. You've been to San Antonio Zoo,
yes.
I'm assuming. I don't know if they have the ibex anymore, but back in a few years ago, they had this one section where you would kind of walk through, I think where the tree kangaroos are now, where they had all the ibex and they would just climb up the sheer rock faces. So super cool. So I can see what you mean.
Yeah.
And they do have good climbing ability as well.
Yeah. It is so neat to see up in close. It's awesome.
Yeah, and she doesn't mean anybody any harm. Tarantulas don't even have brains, so they're not thinking about harming anybody or out to get you.
And just
so they have a network of what do you call it? Nerve endings called ganglia, and that's how their whole body kind of operates in the first place. They don't have a traditional brain at all, so they don't really have like that we know of a good memory or learning ability. Sorry to insult you, but they're just very different than us. So they're not like out to get you or trying to plot out anything. They don't mean anybody any harm. They're just out to survive and eat insects and just be themselves and do their job in nature. They're just very different than us. Super cool. A lot of invertebrates like this, which are animals that have no bones, right? Invertebrate. They're similar to like sea creatures, in my opinion. They're just so very different than us. Animals that live under the ocean, they are just built very different. They have a totally different system. Like octopus, for example, kind of similar to a spider, but totally different.
Fascinated with octopus lately, especially with all the new shows that they have. So smart. Yeah.
Very
so
cool.
Beautiful too.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And that unfortunately is another animal that doesn't live very long. Just like the male tarantulas don't make it usually past 3 to 5 maybe in nature. The females live a lot longer, but most invertebrates in general don't live very long. And then the octopus doesn't live very long either, just a couple of years, which is so interesting because they are so intelligent, as you probably learned. But they just don't make it very long with their normal life expectancy. And then you've got other animals in the ocean like sharks that live for like 200, 500 years, depending on the species. It's pretty fascinating. Shall we meet another animal? So this one's super cute. The one coming out next, his name is Felix. And Felix reminds me of Felix the cat. If you know what that is out there in TV land. This is a leopard gecko. I'm going to hold him in a different way so you guys can see him.
Gosh.
So leopard geckos are a kind of a popular pet nowadays. I don't think they're good pets for everybody, just like I talk about all of our animals. Some of them could potentially be a pet, but that might be where you have seen a leopard gecko out there, you guys watching, before. They are pretty popular because they're a smaller lizard. As you can see, this is as big as they get. And they are pretty easy to care for, but we always want to make sure you guys are doing your research before just adopting a pet, right? We get that question all the time, like, like, can I have it for a pet? The short answer is yes, but we want to make sure with any animal that you're always doing your research and looking to adopt before you shop as well. It's always very important because some animals need homes, right? But leopard geckos are pretty popular. They are originally from the Middle East. That is where they come from in nature, which a lot of people don't know that. They're from like India and Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran and places like that. So kind of the desert, but also scrub forest areas too. And of course, they have spots like a leopard, which is where they get their name. And just like the spider, they also eat bugs. So these guys are strictly carnivores, but they eat small animals like insects and sometimes very, very tiny mammals like tiny mice and things like that, but usually going to be bugs. So that is why they have spots all over them, is to be able to hide from their prey as they hunt, but also to hide from predators too, because most animals have prey and predators if they are predators. So there are very few predators that don't also have a predator too, but there are some larger predators, of course, in nature that do not have predators naturally besides humans. But these guys definitely have predators like foxes and cats and dogs and things like that. And all sorts of animals might eat them, birds out there that are bigger than them. So those spots help them to blend in. However, his markings are very different than they would be in the wild. He still has spots, but they're going to be more brown than yellow. The yellow coloration comes from being in the care of humans and breeding and things like that for selective colors and things. So a lot of times with leopard geckos, you'll see all sorts of different colors, which is kind of interesting. The spider is actually the natural color they would be. So that's the pretty colors do exist in nature as well. Now you might notice he's got kind of a fat tail.
Yeah, I was just going to say it is the little fat tail.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like a squishy gummy bear.
Oh, wow.
And that is where they store body fat. And that's going to be very similar to a camel, which is another kind of desert-ish type animal, right? That might not get a meal every day. Lizards are cold-blooded, so they don't have to eat every day. And that goes for all lizards. But these guys can actually go a few months without eating and survive off of their body fat and the tail. Can you guys see the tail? It's kind of squishy like a gummy bear. It's not sticky at all, but it does help to conserve, or actually, not conserve, but to hold fat in their body to be able to survive in times of need. And then if they need to basically live off of that, they can. It's not ideal for them, but they can survive. And of course, in nature, it's all about survival. With us, he doesn't have to worry about that at all because he gets regular meals. And some of his favorite foods are things like worms and crickets and roaches too. Yum! Which is another consideration you have to take if you're going to have one of these in your home, is you have to be comfortable with live insects as well. And most people are not. So that's another thing to think about. Now, these guys are really, really unique in the gecko world. Now, gecko is just a type of lizard. They're a lizard. They're a reptile, right? And they're more specifically a lizard. And then more specifically a gecko. And then the species is the leopard gecko. But there are other species of gecko right here in Texas and kind of all over the place. You've probably seen them climbing up your walls, up your the side of your house, the fence, things like that. There's a lot of lizards that climb. This type of gecko, even though he's on my hand right now, they don't climb at all. So they're a terrestrial species. So they're a very unique type of gecko. Can you guys see how they just have like regular little toes and hands? They don't have sticky toes. So they are super cute.
Goodness.
Thank you. So his toes are not designed for climbing. I'm being really careful to hold him up. But he could not just like climb up a wall or a tree at all. They are strictly on the ground. And they usually live in very sandy or dirty, dusty places. So they also have eyelids, which you might be thinking, well, of course they have eyelids. But not every gecko does have eyelids.
Oh, wow.
Most geckos out there, the ones that you see climbing and everything else, they don't blink. They have eyes that stay open.
Oh my goodness.
And because of that, they have a special scale over their eye, which takes care of that. It's actually kind of like a snake. We're about to meet a snake here in a little bit too, so you guys will see. These guys, though, they do blink. They have full eyelids, and that's because they live in the dust and they live in the dirt. So shutting their eyes sometimes helps them to keep their eyes safe. And I'm sure that's a little more comfortable for them to be able to just shut their eyes and get away from that and protect their eyes like we do, right? We're familiar with all that. And they can actually lubricate their eyes by blinking, whereas other geckos, they have to lick their eyes to lubricate and take care of their eyes. Isn't that interesting? So they're a little bit different, even though they're still classified as a gecko. Can you guys see them? They are a lot more unique than people think of because people are familiar with this species. And a lot of times they think all geckos are the same, and they're just not. They're very different from each other. Look at his little face, you guys.
Face.
You guys have any questions about Felix? Thank you. Do you have any questions about Felix? Okay.
The way he breathes. What are these little...
Sure.
So I feel like I could just see through.
So on the side, he's got 2 ears. So those are his ears.
Okay.
But that's a good question. It kind of looks like gills or something like that. He has lungs just like us, so he is breathing with his nostrils. So he would take breaths in and out with his little nose. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And they do have a full set of lungs just like us, but you can actually see that he is breathing by his throat moving.
Okay.
So they kind of are sniffing and breathing at the same time. With that throat movement, it kind of goes like up and down like a frog. Frogs do the same thing too. They breathe with their nostrils too. The axolotl that you were talking about earlier, the underwater animal, they don't breathe with lungs. They breathe with gills like a fish. So that's a little bit different, right? So he's not a fish or a salamander at all. He's actually a lizard. So he would breathe with lungs. And but that's a great question. So the things that you're seeing on the side of the head are his ears. So they hear very well.
Wow.
Not every reptile has ears though. And not all of them hear very well. He hears well, he sees excellently, and he can feel, he can taste, all things, all 5 senses. Yeah. So, and geckos are actually one of the few type of lizards that make noises, like traditional vocalization noises. That's where the term gecko comes from, because there are some types of gecko that make a gecko noise. Kind of sounds like a frog. But most lizards don't really make noise. They make noise to communicate. They make noise to call girlfriends and establish territories and talk, just like we do, right? That's how we communicate as well, partially. They also communicate with body language too, like most animals. Any other questions about him? No. He's cool, right?
Yeah, he's
cool. My mom loves the geckos, her favorite. Yeah. You're gonna send me some worms, so you guys can actually send me Amazon wish list items. That would be fantastic. And worms are on the wish list. Believe it or not, you can order worms from Amazon. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
All sorts of things. What a time to be alive. So back, especially when COVID was so bad and we couldn't really go very many places, we were ordering everything. So anything you can think of, we were just ordering it in. And not all of our groceries are traditional groceries. Sometimes we need worms to feed our animals. Look at that beautiful smile. They do kind of have a dolphin-like smile, which is super cute and very strange. Like, why? But I love it.
His color is just beautiful. It's so vibrant.
Yes, it's beautiful. Can you all see it? The yellow?
Oh, goodness.
Oh my gosh. He's so cute. He's such a sweet gecko too. He's very easy to handle. So Felix also has beautiful eyes. Like we were talking about before. They have great eyesight and they can blink to protect their eyes. But can you see the slitted pupil, especially on the view right now? So that is also similar to a cat. We're talking about cats a lot for some reason on the show today. Similarities. Oh, you do? I do too. I do too. I had a cat for almost 19 years before he passed away. He was wonderful. But that's like the one animal I don't have now. But he has slitted pupils like a cat. And that usually indicates that an animal is more nocturnal. And they are a little bit nocturnal. They're actually what we call crepuscular for this species of gecko, but many other gecko species are nocturnal, which means they're out at night, right?
Right.
So most of the geckos you see around here, if you go out at night and shine a flashlight, you'll see them like kind of scattering.
Yeah.
And they're really good for us, by the way. There's nothing wrong with having geckos around because they eat a lot of mosquitoes and flies. So that's an A+ from me.
Mosquitoes. Oh my goodness.
Let me tell you, mosquito season has been like the worst ever this year. I don't know why. I don't know if it's if it's like just the summer we're having or what, but it's been really bad and fleas have been really bad. So the more geckos that you have, maybe not this species unless you live in the Middle East, but if you live here in Texas like we do, there's a lot of geckos that can eat those bugs for us. So they're great, but they're nocturnal. He's a little bit crepuscular, which means, that's a weird word, right? Crepuscular is more active at dawn and dusk. So in the morning and in the evening. But they can also be out at night as well.
Well, that makes sense. I feel like the mosquitoes come out at dusk.
Absolutely. Yeah.
On point.
24/7 these days, but absolutely. Most animals that eat mosquitoes are out at night, like bats. Bats are out at night usually, right? But you can tell by his eyes, his slitted pupils there, that he has really good vision in the dark. And right now, they're really tiny. Those pupils are slitted because it's really bright in here. You guys that can't see our lights behind the scene, there's a lot of lights and studio lights in here and whatnot. And during the day, they're going to slit as well if he happens to be out during the day. But at night, they can open up really big. So animals with slitted pupils like cats, they can open up their pupils bigger than if they had round pupils like us. So we're pretty limited on our night vision, but animals like cats and leopard geckos have the ability to see much better at night than we do.
That's really cool.
And they can even see full color. Cats can too at night.
Oh my gosh. At night, I did not know that.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And frogs are another one that do that too, the nocturnal species of frogs. So that tells you right there that his vision is amazing. Awesome. And he has beautiful gray eyes.
Yeah, they're pretty.
Yeah.
Aww.
All right. Do you like him?
I do. He's a handsome little dude.
Thank you. Felix, you're very popular.
Oh, Felix.
And they are kind of a cool species because they don't get very large. And so they are actually pretty easy to care for as long as you have done your research and you know what you're doing, because they still have their special things that they need, being a reptile and everything. They need heat. They need worms and bugs to eat. Some geckos do eat a little bit of fruits and nectar too, along with their bugs, but every gecko eats bugs to some capacity. But this species only eats other animals. They don't eat nectar or fruits at all, so that makes them a carnivore instead of an omnivore. All right. And some examples of omnivorous, words are hard, omnivorous or omnivore geckos are animals like a crested gecko or something like that, which is another gecko that we have. All right. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any comments or questions. If you guys do have any comments or questions about the animals or anything at all, feel free to drop a comment down below if you just want to encourage us like you have been. That would be fantastic. What is their biggest enemy? Well, I don't know if you're asking for Tiptoes or Felix. You're saying her, so I would assume Tiptoes. But I'll just answer for both. So some of their enemies for the tarantula could be like birds, lizards that live out there in, sorry, I'm not trying to block you. Trying to focus. Lizards that live out there in the Caribbean, things like that, maybe larger spiders. But for the leopard gecko, it's going to be things like foxes, cats, dogs, birds as well, and larger lizards too. So they definitely have a lot of predators they have to worry about in the wild. But those spots really help them. Their hiding abilities to go underground, because they do dig little tunnels and hide underground most of the time during the day. And then they'll come out, like I said, in the evening and in the morning when it's a little bit safer. For both. Okay, I'm glad I clarified that. Very good. Thank you so much for answering. And you're welcome. Aren't they wonderful? They're very interactive. He really is amazing. Thank you. They're super cool. And I'm glad you guys like him. Okay, Felix, you did a great job. We have another leopard gecko female named Fiona. Fiona Felix, yeah. But Fiona is not as calm as Felix. So I usually bring Felix along if I'm bringing a leopard gecko. So Felix is very patient. Fiona's like, bye, and she'll like run. So all right. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything on here. If you guys are just joining us, we do have a special guest on here, of course. Her name is Louisa, and we are about to meet our final animal for the evening. If you guys want to watch the show again and subscribe to our YouTube channel, that's the best way to rewatch it, in my opinion, is over on YouTube. So do us a favor and go subscribe to Once in a While. That helps us out quite a bit. That is one free way you can help us out, right? But another way you can help us out, of course, is by tipping, donating, and your options there are Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal. It's always in the description down below, as well as right here in the pink bar down below. And we also have our Amazon wish list, which is at onceinawild.com. And another great way to help us out is leaving a review. If you guys go to Yelp or to Google, you can actually leave us a review if you've already had an experience with Once in a While, like you guys have. And that helps us out quite a bit. Or giving us a follow on our social media like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, anything you like. We usually are on there. And you can find us usually at Once in a Wild or at Once in a Wild Zoo. Okay. Well, before we meet the last animal, is there anything else you wanted to let people know that you are doing lately, or to check out, or where they can find you, or anything at all to?
Yeah.
I know we talked about it already, but I just want to make sure.
For sure. I have the San Antonio Socialista as a main place for people to connect with a local, somebody that is from San Antonio. Both my husband and I are from San Antonio. We're raising our family here. My family is still here, and we just want to be a light in the community, and just for you to just hop on, find different ways to get connected with other people in San Antonio, and to check out what we're doing and ways to give back. We have a couple of things that I'm involved in, but the main things are our Girl Scouts. Buy some cookies when cookie season is coming up. Thin Mints are my favorite. Yeah, near and dear to my heart. Aww. I'm also involved with Partners for Youth. It's called Bexar County Partners for Youth Juvenile Services. It is at the probation center, and it is a program that helps at-risk children that are at the probation center, and it is a way for them to rehabilitate and for us to be there as a source for them to, restore their lives. Some of these kids have suffered trauma, and this is a nonprofit that no one hardly knows about, and I was asked to come on as a community board member on their advisory board, and I was just very honored. And it's a way for most of the board is people that work there, and they're so busy. And these are people that most of their money, what they do give back comes from their own pocket. So if it's a kid's birthday. Yeah. They get, their own
teachers.
Yeah, exactly.
Some teachers, yeah.
Yeah, and that's, the way it is. And of course, there is some grant money that helps some other programs, but there is a need, an extreme need. And I would just say, learn more about it. You can follow me. I'm going to be talking about it. There is a unit called domestic sex trafficking that hardly anybody knows about. And it's a huge problem in San Antonio. Human trafficking in general is very huge. And those are the things that, not everybody wants to talk about, but these are kids that are really suffering. And, it just tugged at my heart. And to see these nonprofits that need our help, it's, and for somebody that has somewhat of I can try to help, with my awareness and things like that. If even one person heard that would just go such a long way. And that has already happened with some of the events that I was able to do. And we're currently trying to rebrand, that and just kind of get their social media going just so we can. It always just goes back to the kids and the need. And there is a huge need there. And so I just asked for you to call Partners for Youth. You can follow me. And in general, you can check us out. Me and my husband are foodies. We love to go out on date nights. My kids and I are always around town having fun. We love the outdoors, the mission reach, and we're always traveling. And just ways to get encouraged. You can just hop on, and hopefully I'm just some sort of encouragement in your scroll.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you for being here. It's been such a pleasure.
I am a huge fan of Once in a While. I mean, I was instant huge fan. And so when she asked me, I was like, oh my gosh, me.
Yay.
Oh, I was just like, of course. So I'm just so excited to be here. So thank you. I appreciate everything you do for the community, because although it's your business, it has been a light in so many kids and so many, for so many people, and as a form of therapy, because absolutely. The Partners for Youth, they have a unit called CHAPS, which is children. It's horse therapy. So yeah. And so I was thinking about that. I'm like, oh my gosh, because animals are such a form of therapy, and they really just help us get grounded and connected, and to be able to provide that for kids. So I think all these things, just what you're doing is just a complete light to the community, and it's amazing. And we, everybody benefits from it, just from seeing you on Instagram or seeing you in person. It's just all good stuff, and I really enjoy watching you grow. So it's been fun.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. I hope you guys check us out next week, and all of our social media. Stay tuned for exciting announcements coming up, partnerships. You never know what's going to happen. We were just talking about day-to-day. Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow, which is, kind of good and bad. But we're trying to stay positive. We're trying to bring something really fun to the community. And we love San Antonio as well. And that's why we wanted to come back home. We were living in another place before this, which nothing wrong with that, but we just really missed home. And San Antonio is such a wonderful place with wonderful people, and all of you guys, even Miami too. You guys don't feel left out. So, but that is just one thing that's been special to us as well, is making sure that we are bringing something positive to our hometown.
You are.
Oh, very good. Most definitely will. Really enjoyed it. I'm glad. Well, let's meet one more animal. It's not time for goodbye yet. So quickly, we're going to meet our final animal. And it's another kind of misunderstood creature. Her name is Harley Quinn. And Harley Quinn's ready. Hello, Harley.
Oh, my goodness.
She's actually
really beautiful.
Thank you. So this is a beautiful corn snake. And she is a species that you might see down in Miami, actually, in Florida, and even Georgia, Louisiana, places like that. And they are a species you would see right here in the U.S. Trying to make sure she's in view for everybody. And they have very, very similar relatives right here in Texas called the Texas rat snake and black rat snakes as well. You might see down here as well. They're all in the rat snake family. In fact, this is the red rat snake. That is their other name, red rat snake or the corn snake. And the corn snake gets their name from their belly. It looks just like corn.
My goodness.
Yeah, it sure does. So to me, it looks more like a checkerboard or a chessboard, but to somebody, I guess it reminded them.
Kind of remind me of Tetris or something.
Yeah, kind of a Tetris pattern, but a very unique pattern. And they have a totally different dorsal or pattern on the top. The animal's top is the dorsal, like a dorsal fin on a dolphin. That's an easy way to remember that. And then their ventral is their belly, and it looks totally different, like a totally different snake. And the reason they have that is to surprise their enemy. So if they're scooting along as a very harmless animal that they are, because this is a non-venomous colubrid, which means they're totally not dangerous to most animals. They don't have any poison or venom. So this has less venom than the harmless spider that we met.
Wow.
Nothing at all. They just have regular saliva. Venom, by the way, is just concentrated saliva. It just has concentrations in there that would break down their food. That's what venom is. Or liquefy their food, like we talked about with the tarantula. These guys don't have any of that. They just have a mouthful of tiny teeth and regular saliva like anybody else. And so they're super harmless to most animals. That's my point. So they're going to be scooting along, slithering along, minding their own business. And all of a sudden they see a scary animal like a dog or a cat. Then they would actually stand up like this and show their belly. And to most animals, that's going to be very confusing, because they change colors. And in their mind, they're thinking, what? This animal went from this pattern that blends into stuff, red, brown, and orange and black, to black and white, which is very rare in nature. This doesn't really exist very often. Can you think of other black and white animals in nature? What about a skunk?
Oh, the skunk. Well, yeah.
If you see a skunk, what happens? Do you usually go up to it and hug it? No. Most people know, and most animals know, that a skunk has a black and white stripe pattern that's very strange in nature to warn them that there's something to fear, right?
Wow,
so a skunk has the ability to spray you. Not that you should be afraid of skunks, just leave them alone and they'll be fine. But you definitely don't want to go pick them up, right? And you shouldn't pick up any wild animal, by the way. We want to make sure you guys are leaving them alone. But most animals, if they have a black and white pattern that looks awfully strange in nature, that's kind of like a stop sign. Like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't know about this witchcraft that I just saw. This animal just changed colors. And so it'll at least give the snake time to get away. So she will spook them and then, haha, I'm out of here. And it's all pretend. It's not real. She's not actually dangerous. She's just pretending to be dangerous. She's only dangerous to tiny animals like mice and things like that. And that's what they typically eat.
Oh my goodness.
And snakes are very important too, because again, they're another carnivore. They do eat a lot of rodents. So that is their most important job. Is rodents make a lot of babies. And so too many rodents can spread diseases and parasites to a lot of mammals, like us humans. And if we have too many of those, then it's not good. So we need animals like snakes to keep the populations of rodents in check. And it also helps the rodents too, because usually they're eating the slower ones. They're eating the sick ones. Does that make sense?
Wow.
Just like a wolf eating the slower deer. That's going to make the other deer thrive. And in turn, because those, maybe sicker or diseased animals are gone. And that's actually the way of nature. That's very, very natural. So having predators like snakes that are a natural predator is very good for the environment. And they're very misunderstood too. Snakes can't hear. They have no ears. So a lot of time people will come across them and they're surprised by that human all of a sudden right next to them, because they didn't even hear them coming. They might feel vibrations. They can feel just like if you were a deaf person. You can still feel heavy vibrations, bass music and things like that, or something really yelling really loud. And they can feel somebody stomping by with their heavy feet and things like that, but they can't really hear very well. Because they don't have traditional ears at all. They have inner ears that help them with balance and maybe like slight hearing, but that's it. So their best sense is going to be their sense of smell. Unlike the spider with the sense of touch, they don't really have hair, do they? They have scales. And since they don't have ears, they have a very specialized tongue, which comes out of their mouth a lot, right? And they're smelling with their tongue. I want to make sure you guys can see her in focus. The tongue is forked, which means it has 2 points on the end of it. Back in the old days, forks used to have 2 points. That's why they call them a forked tongue, right? Or a pitchfork. They have two points on the end of it in this case. and her tongue is very slender with 2 points, and that will help them to basically smell in directions.
Oh,
so 2 points like this, they can kind of get a better
Wow.
idea as opposed to 1 point, which direction the smells are coming from and how to navigate around. It's almost
Gosh,
like,
that's so
I mean, they're
interesting.
not blind, but it's almost like a blind person with a cane, you know what I
Mhm,
mean? Or a walking stick that's going to help them to kind of navigate.
Mhm.
And they do see, but their vision isn't great. Not nearly as good as the gecko.
Mm.
She does have eyes that are always open with a special scale over her eye to protect them. She doesn't have to blink at all. She doesn't have to worry about protecting her eye because it's already protected with a spectacle scale, which is a clear scale
wow.
over the eye. And they can even use that as a goggle underwater, which is really
Oh
cool.
my
They can go
goodness.
underwater and just look around with no problems. But their vision is pretty limited. It doesn't see colors. And it's kind of blurry, but they do see a little bit. So they can see, they smell amazingly, and they feel vibrations as well. So those are their main senses that they
That's
use.
awesome.
And they're a little bit misunderstood because they have no legs, just like the spider is misunderstood because they have many legs. So I feel like it's just animals that are different than us that are often
Right.
misunderstood, or they're different than like our common pets that we see every
Mhm.
day, and a lot of people are a little bit leery of them. But I know you're trying to get over your fear of snakes a
am.
little bit. Would you like to touch her?
Oh my gosh.
You can touch her. She's super soft. So a lot of people assume that they are slimy.
Oh,
But they
my
actually feel
gosh.
like a leather. They're super duper smooth, like a
Yeah.
fine leather.
Oh, super soft.
Yeah, and they're
Not
very,
what I
very
was
soft.
thinking. Oh wow.
Cool, huh?
Super beautiful.
To me, they feel very, very nice and very therapeutic. To be honest with you, snakes are one of my favorite animals from the beginning. I've always had good experiences with them. And honestly, even the dangerous snakes are they have their place in nature, and they don't mean to harm anybody. They're not thinking about that. They're not the smartest
Right.
animals out there. They do have a brain, unlike the spider, but they're definitely just trying to do their job. They're trying to survive every day. They're a lot more afraid of you than you are of them. So the quickest way to be harmed by any animal is by trying to harm them. Because of course
Right.
they're going to defend
They're
themselves.
coming in their territory. Yes.
Yeah, they're coming to their home. Of course, accidents do happen, but for the most part,
Yeah.
animals just want to mind their own business, right?
How beautiful.
So, what
Wow.
questions do you have about
So,
Harley?
if we were to see them,
Yes.
out, where would they normally be?
Mostly.
But maybe under rocks, or do they go up trees?
That's a great question. This type of snake can climb,
Oh,
and they can
okay.
also be seen on the ground. So they're what we call semi-arboreal. So arboreal
Okay.
in the trees, terrestrial on the ground, subterrestrial underground. These guys can be all of those things
Oh,
depending
okay.
on their opportunities. So they can maybe find prey on the ground, maybe find prey in the trees. They eat birds sometimes, but mostly they're going to be eating rodents. But to be safer, sometimes they might climb something to get out of the way, or to try to hide and things like that.
Yeah.
So you might see a rat snake, maybe not this species in Texas, but you might see a corn snake or a rat snake climbing. And a lot of times here in Texas, when people do find a snake and they're like, how did it get there up high? It's typically a rat snake. So it's something you don't have to worry about being venomous or anything like that. The best thing to do when you see a snake, though, is to leave them alone if you can entirely.
Yeah.
But if you have one like in your garage or something like that, call professional help. You can take a picture of it and send it to myself or to somebody that knows snakes to help you identify it. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be something harmless, but on occasion, you'll get something that you definitely shouldn't touch or mess with.
Okay.
And then you can call like animal removal service or something like that, and they will
okay.
help you out. The best thing that you can ever do is leave them alone and don't
Yeah.
touch them, because you never know.
Yeah.
So yeah, so sometimes they climb and sometimes they're on the ground. How often do we feed her? Harley Quinn eats about once a week, usually every 7 to 10 days, depending on how she's feeling. But she is a very good eater, and she does eat mice as well. She's actually getting ready to shed. Snakes do shed about once a month. So she is almost ready to shed now. I don't know if you can tell at all, but she's a little bit more dull than they usually are. They're usually very bright colored. She's still beautiful, but she may not want to eat when she's in her shed cycle, because a lot of times their eyes will cloud over. Remember, they don't have eyelids.
Right.
So that scale over her eye will
okay.
also be part of that shed cycle. And when they go into shed, they're more cloudy, so they can't see as well. And they already can't see great in the first place. The eye scale is really interesting. I'm glad you think so. Yeah, animals are so different. But if you think about, a lot of animals don't blink. Fish don't blink. Spiders don't blink. Snakes don't blink either. We're kind of strange. If you think about it. Very different.
Right.
All right.
That's so cool. And it has such a tiny mouth. I keep thinking,
yes, very small.
That mice.
That is true. Snakes do have a specialized jaw, which can expand. Now, a snake like this can only eat very small animals. She can't eat something very big. But bigger snakes do eat bigger food, of course. But snakes in general can eat something about the width of their body. So she could eat something this wide if she needed to. So like a mouse or something like that, like a smaller mouse at this age. She will get bigger and be able to eat bigger food, but they have a specialized jaw that's not fused. So right here and here, they have gaps, and it can actually open up this way to be able to make that room that they need to be able to eat it. Of course, they have skin over that and everything, so you can't see that. But if you take a look at their skull and skeleton, they're just very different than us. They can make a lot of room to expand their jaw. That's how they do that.
And they have teeth, or
they do have teeth.
Okay.
So all snakes have teeth. Not all snakes have fangs. Because she doesn't have venom, so she doesn't need fangs to be able to pierce and deliver the venom at all. She doesn't have any of that. Her teeth are more like Velcro.
Oh,
like the sticky part.
The
so
sticky,
pretty benign. Yeah, it's just designed for hanging on to something and then eating it.
Okay.
And that's it. They don't chew their food. They just swallow it.
Oh.
Pretty cool.
Wow, she's beautiful.
Well, what do you think?
It's super beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Snakes are my favorite animals. Okay, so I think somebody had some trouble with this. Partners and Youth.
Follow me, and then I will point your way. I'll go on stories tonight, and you can follow. I'll make sure. If
you guys ever need anything, you can definitely give us a private message as well, or a direct message, and we'll help you out as well. We never mind doing that, right? Okay, you guys. Well, it's been a lot of fun. I'm just trying to make sure there's not any more questions. Yeah, I think I've answered everything, and Ash is always hanging out late as usual. Thank you guys for hanging out late. If you're still there, we are very grateful to all of our friends, family, and followers, and thank you so much for being here, Louisa.
Thank you.
It was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it, even though we had kind of creepy crawly animals on the show.
Whole new appreciation.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd be very, very excited to do another program for the Girl Scouts.
Yes,
too.
yes.
Can't wait to see you guys again. Her kids are awesome. And all the girls at the Girl Scouts are awesome. What are the ages of that troop?
Yeah, so you can start from kindergarten, and my troop goes up until 6th grade, but there is other Girl Scouts that go up and beyond. I mean, up until even high school and college, and then you become an alumni. So, my Girl Scouts, my daughter is 6th grade, and I have a 1st grader, and they're both in the same group, and I just make everything to where they can earn their badges, and we can all still be, a troop together and do things. So, yeah, it's, anybody can join in those age groups, but just look in your local Girl Scouts of Southwest Texas, and they can point you to the nearest troop.
And Boy Scouts too. I'm sure there's something for the
Boy
boys
Scouts
out there
too. Definitely. And they're always looking for volunteers and help and donations. And it is still a thriving thing. We are out there, and we're about confidence and courage in our youth. That's my biggest thing. I had my kids, and I just kind of wanted to instill that in them, but I also wanted to have them see me do it for other kids, so they know that it's important. So I like that they're leader kids, because they can just help out and volunteer and then learn that way, and hopefully planting the seed will just in turn make more leaders out there. But confidence and courage, Girl Scouts.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much once again. There's so much to talk about. I'm sure we could go on forever. But we do need to say goodbye, I suppose. And I hope you guys join us next week. Stay tuned for what we're doing next week. I can't remember what we're doing next week. Another special guest, maybe? Question mark. But if not, we'll see you guys next week with some more animals, of course. And stay tuned to our social media and Louisa's social media as well to stay tuned with what we're doing. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
We are nothing close to ordinary, but we love to be your friend. Hold our hands and let's have fun together, singing as loud as you can. Everybody singing once in a while. Together. Once in a while. I wanna hear you say once in a while. Never fun for me and you.
Okay, everybody, we'll see you next week. Same time, same place, Facebook and YouTube. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube yet, make sure and do so. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.